Major funding for these programs is provided by grants from HSH Nordbank and First American Title Insurance Company of New York, Perfect Building Maintenance, Allied Partners, Bank of America, Murray Hill Properties, SJP Properties, Greenberg Traurig LLP. Additional funding is provided by grants from Antares Investment Partners, Arbor Realty Trust, Athena Group, BRT Realty Trust, BERDON LLP, C.B. Richard Ellis, City Habitats, City Investment Fund, CUSHMAN and Wakefield, Eastern Consolidated, Essex Capital Partners, Helmsley Spear, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Jackson Development Group, Meridian Capital Group, McSam Hotel Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Moynihan Organization, Muss Development, PALIN Enterprises, Rosenthal and Rosenthal, Signature Bank, Sidney Fettner Associates, Stonehenge Partners, Studley, Sutphin Properties, the WITKOFF Organization, Extreme Construction and Deconstruction.
Hello, my name is Michael Stoller, host of the Stoller Report, Real Estate Trends in the Tri-State Region. It's only 9 miles away from Midtown Manhattan. It has a brand new stadium. It has a performing arts center. It has lots of buildings. It has some new bars. It's Newark, but very few people really know about Newark or what's happening. Who are the visionaries? Who's working on it? Today I've assembled 4 people who are very actively involved in the development of Newark. My guests include Joe Taylor, President and CEO of Matrix Development.
Correct.
Arthur Stern, CEO of Cogswell Realty. I didn't screw it up. Ron Bett, President of RBH Realty. And last but not least, Jerome Gottesman, Chairman of the Board of Edison Properties. Jerry, since you've been in Newark, and let's get to the story. You said your father had a handkerchief factory in Newark?
My father was in the handkerchief manufacturing business, and his office, by the way, was right next door to this building at 373 Fifth Avenue. But he had a sewing factory practically on top of Penn Station in Newark, and he occupied the 4th floor of a rental loft building from the time I was 9 years old. So I've been downtown Newark, within spitting distance of Penn Station, practically my whole life. And my dad was going to move his factory from his rented quarters to a loft building that he purchased. And then he was getting older, and the handkerchief business wasn't what it once was. And he decided, and I've never quite understood why he decided this, because I was off in the Air Force at the time. He decided he was going to demolish the building and rent the parking lot that was going to be on the site to one of the other parking companies that existed in Newark. And when my brother and I got out of the Air Force, we were each in the Air Force, we got out within a year of each other, he said to us, instead of my renting the parking lot to the then important parking companies, he said, why don't you guys run the parking lot? And frankly, we didn't know enough to say no, and we didn't understand what it meant to say yes. So we said yes.
Now, we were talking, and I mean, everybody has, and we'll talk about the perception of Newark and what's happened, but prior to the show, we were asking Jerry what happened, and I originally said it was the 1967 riots. Jerry disagreed, and you said in 1957, what happened in Newark?
Prior to 1957, Newark was a great shopping city. You had Bamberger's, you had Haynes, you had a company called Kresge's, you had Orbach's. You're old enough to remember these names. And you had...
No, I'm much younger than them.
You had S. Klein.
Ron, what were the names of these stores?
And you had S. Klein. And these 5 stores all fronted on Halsey Street. And on shopping days, which was not every day. Wednesday nights and Saturdays were so busy you could hardly drive your car around downtown Newark. And all of these department stores did business. In 1957, Garden State Mall opened in Paramus. In 1958, Eatontown Shopping Center opened in Eatontown, New Jersey. And I think in 59 or 60, Menlo Park opened in Edison. And those three shopping centers, followed by all of the others, were the beginning of the end for Newark being a powerful retail source and a powerful attraction. That was the first thing that happened, that was the beginning of Newark as being a vital, dynamic downtown area.
But let's get to the situation. I mean, I'm not going to mislead people. People realize that people haven't wanted to go to Newark. And, you know, let's get to the situation of how people like you, a guy who has your office on exit 8A in New Jersey, you know, which is probably 45 minutes depending on the traffic on the turnpike, how do you decide to go to Newark? I mean, you know, this is, you know, a lot of the matrix business is warehouse industrial, but you went there and you leased the ground for an office building. What happened?
Well, we determined that in addition to all the suburban development activities we're involved with, that it made a lot of sense to start development and investment in the urban areas. And Newark, we felt, after looking throughout New Jersey, and subsequently we've gotten involved in many cities in New Jersey, New Brunswick and Trenton, among others, we determined that Newark had the best of all worlds from an investment perspective right now in the state of New Jersey. It's got terrific infrastructure of all sorts. It's got terrific road infrastructure, mass transit infrastructure, Newark Airport. It's got a population of well-educated students and graduate students that come in and out of the city every day. It's proximate to New York. It's easier to get to from New York than a lot of places in New York. So we thought it made an awful lot of sense. We bought the best building in the right location, right next to the rail infrastructure, and we've never regretted it. We subsequently bought adjacent vacant ground because we believe that the time will come where we can also do ground-up development. But our initial foray was to buy an existing building, largely tenanted, although with some near-term rollover, and we've been delighted with the investment.
And you go there in 1997. I mean, what did the guy from New York who lives in Chelsea know about 1997 in Newark? Was not a time. Jerry had parking lots over there. He wasn't developing too much. We'll get to you in a second. What do you do in 1997 in Newark? It's 10 years. It's a decade now.
Our involvement was purely by accident. We had, me personally, I had never stepped foot in Newark, except once getting lost on the way to the airport. My historical recollection of Newark was the carjackings on the 11 o'clock news and the pictures, and that's all I had seen. We got a call from a friend of ours that Helmsley was selling 744 Broad Street. And I'll never forget the day we went out there.
Tell my audience what 744 Broad Street
744 Broad Street is a 35-story office building that is in the heart of downtown Newark, directly across the street from Prudential's world headquarters. And for decades had been the historical center, a business center of New Jersey. And over decades had been fallen into a severe state of disrepair. And when we took the trip out there that October in '97, the building was down to a 19% occupancy and was in a severe state of disrepair. So we went out that day, and I'll never forget, we were wearing suits that day, my partner Peter Marsh and myself. We changed into jeans and t-shirts because we didn't want to stand out. We got into the car. We didn't stop within. When we got to a red light, we never parked more than, or stopped closer than 20 feet to the next car because we were convinced we were going to get carjacked. And pulled up in front of 744 Broad Street. And from the first moment our feet hit the pavement, when we did the look around, we were convinced that the chief problem there was perception, not reality. Having looked at some other markets that we felt were far more troubled, we felt from the first moment that we stepped there that the perception was way out of whack with what our reality was. And we felt that being provincial New York snobs, if we could get comfortable with it, that other people could too. And
So you buy this building, I would assume at a very reasonable price, because
none of the major brokerages even want to take the listing. They didn't want to waste their time
with
on
a
it.
19% occupancy factor, it's a vacant building, there's nothing happening. Hemsley wasn't doing anything for the building. So you buy the building, and what do you do with it?
We put $65 million into it, restored it to its former glory, and now have an over 90% occupancy rate. Leased 450,000 square feet.
But that was the first one. Let's talk about the second one, because I think that's the interesting story, that you took another building, another office building, and you built the first new residential?
Correct.
I mean, I don't want to say.
First market rate.
First market rate in Newark.
Luxury housing.
In 42 years?
Yeah, we second Housley property, a former Housley property, we purchased 1180 Raymond Boulevard, which had a similar history as far as a business center. It's the second tallest building in the for many decades in the state. And from the moment that we acquired that building in '99, we started our obsession with creating residential housing there. The building laid itself out perfectly for residential restoration. We felt that its proximity to Penn Station and its access to the tri-state area, that residents who were priced out of other locales would come to the building. We felt that there was enough of a demographic within Newark with the college students, corporate, and everything else that was going on there. So we started our odyssey of trying to turn that building into a residential building. It took us 7 years to get it done. It was, as you mentioned, the first luxury rental market rate building that came online in Newark since the Pavilion and Colonnade in 1961. And now we're leasing up, and we have over 260 people in the building right now.
How many apartments do you have?
There are 316.
So, but you know, for my audience, and you know, this is Arthur, it wasn't meant as advertising for Cogswell, but we were talking prior to the show. Jerry at Edison Properties has a number of properties around the market, and I'll give a plug to his property, the Ludlow, which is a brand new property next to Katz's Delicatessen. You know, very convenient for everyone. Jerry, the
rental apartments.
The rental apartments in the Ludlow are going to rent for what per square foot? He said $30 for his building.
Ours is more like 75.
75. Now, we are in a recession. I mean, we're in a difficult time. People want to save money. They want to come to the city. They want to come to the urban markets. Jerry's will be leased up because there's 1 million people coming to New York one way or the other. Mm-hmm. But as an alternative, you take what you're saying with the proximity, with the transportation, with the other benefits. Why isn't Newark at $30 a rent, people going as fast to your building as they're running into Jersey City, where they can be renting?
One word perception, which is being erased every day.
Right.
When we were talking about this earlier, that when the perception, right now the public perceives that there's one Newark, that there's a Newark that they read about on the front page of the Times, that there's a Newark that they've seen sometimes on TV. When they realize that, like many urban areas, there are two Newarks, and that there's a downtown that is becoming by the hour more vibrant and is safe, and they distinguish that between the other Newark that they read about, then it'll start to happen overnight. And that's one of the things that the arenas are racing every day. Of the 250,000 people that have come in to the arena, I bet you 240,000 of those people have never been to Newark before in the 3 weeks since it's opened. Mm-hmm. And all of those people are realizing that there's a downtown where there is no fear of crime. They went there with the fear that I'm going to go to Bon Jovi, I'm going to go to the Devils, I'm going to go to Seton Hall basketball. And they went there expecting the worst. And if you read every single exit survey that's been done, they can't wait to go back.
Mike, one of the reasons, Arthur's right on, Newark needs to change its perception. And about 8 years ago, I had the opportunity to talk with a company that was going to definitely move out of New York City, and they considered Hoboken, Jersey City, and Newark. And the chairman told me at that time, after he had had a tour of the Performing Arts Center, which is truly an outstanding facility, it's a world-class facility, And he knew that there was an attempt being made to build the arena. And he said to me, listen, you have a great site right by Penn Station for that you want to build a building for us to move into. But I have hundreds of young computer geniuses working for me, and they want two things. They want the opportunity for nightlife, you know, a 24-hour, 7-day life, and they want to be able to walk to work. And now in Newark we have the Performing Arts Center is celebrating its 10th anniversary very successfully. We have the arena going, which has gotten wonderful press reviews. And we have Arthur's rental housing, but so far it's the only high-rise rental housing where you can walk from your apartment to a job. And what we need is we need a choice of rental housing, and we need people like Arthur and Joe and me to provide, and Ron, to provide office space, not for headquarters of big companies, because they're not going to make the decision to come to Newark, but we need to attract branch offices, sub-headquarters, back office space to Newark, and because we now have the ingredients. We have a much better perception thanks to the arena and the Performing Arts Center. We have rental housing, which will be, Arthur's case will be followed.
You have a minor league baseball team?
And we have a minor league baseball team.
And you have a light rail now. Well, I mean, so there are certain things.
And 45,000 college
most
students.
importantly, you have a new government in place. You have new management in place.
And that is the most
why
important
does
thing.
Ron Beth, who has business in New York City, like Arthur, make a commitment with investors to Newark? And what are you planning to do in Newark?
Very simply, I am based in New York, and I started my career as a property manager, and one of my assignments was in the South Ward of Newark. And at the time I was going to law school downtown, taking the PATH train to Penn Station, and on a nice day I'd either walk or take a cab up to the South Ward. And I was driving through downtown Newark at least once a week, and at the time you're starting your career, you're sort of bouncing everything off the walls, and I'm doing deals in Manhattan. I did a deal in Florida, and I have deal flow from all over the country, and every time I looked at those deals, I came back to, in my backyard, 7 miles out of here, you cannot duplicate what you have there insofar as a university town and a commercial office hub and all the transportation infrastructure that we talked about. But more importantly, you know, it's unfair. Sometimes Newark gets categorized and grouped in with sort of Brooklyn and some of the other.
But Brooklyn is hot as hell.
Right, but Newark has an advantage over Brooklyn, and that is Newark is in New Jersey, and New Jersey is a sovereign state that is the wealthiest state in the country.
But Arthur was saying prior to the show, it's the wealthiest state in the country, but it's hemorrhaging.
Absolutely.
Financially.
And
I mean, there's difficulties.
Population, you're losing population to New York and Pennsylvania and elsewhere, but mostly to New York and Pennsylvania. You're losing jobs, or you're not creating jobs. And the reason is you know, when you look at the demographic, you know, the trend in this country is going back to urban areas, and the people that
trend in the world.
The trend in the world is going back to urban areas. You have, and that's being driven by baby boomers, but more importantly, the echo boomers, the children of the baby boomers. These echo boomers are in Newark today. They're going to college every day, coming in and out of Newark every day. There is nowhere for them to, until recently, there wasn't anywhere for them to go eat, hang out after college, you know, or live off campus. There hasn't been that opportunity. In the last few years, they have more of that opportunity. NJIT, UMDNJ has built a dorm. Rutgers has built a dorm. There's a private third-party American campus, I believe, built a dorm off of NJIT. And all of a sudden, you have 1,500 additional units in addition to what Arthur built. And so now you have that. You now have that infrastructure. And to the extent that if you build it, you have everything already in place. You have the population demographics to occupy it. The problem is there's a disconnect. between construction costs and the marketplace today.
But this construction, you know, I don't, you know, look, I go over a variety of topics in different shows. Long Island City, Jerry knows. I mean, I'd assume everyone except for Joe, because he spends too much time in New Jersey, realizes that Long Island City had some similarity, not the perception of crime and otherwise, but Long Island City for years there was nothing going on. And the first regentrification might be when the design center opened there, which was a fiasco. It was a complete bomb. The buildings were taken over. Dreyfus lost everything. It was just a nightmare. And then for many, many, many years, and when Citibank, and I think it's a little bit similar to Gateway, when Citibank in 1987 built their building over there, they built it with the stores inside the building because the people didn't want to go out. So there was a subway entrance, similar to Gateway.
Same thing.
Same concept. You want to go to Newark? You go within the building. You stay within the neighborhood. You don't go to the outskirts. You don't walk. That's in Long Island City. So I mean, that situation, if you look at the same manner, and people are going, it's cheaper to go to Arthur's property than to live in Long Island City today. Long Island City rentals are $45 a foot. And let's take Williamsburg. What was Williamsburg?
50
Williamsburg was the pits. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, you would walk around and you see the drug needles walking around there. So I think, you know, I think it's a partial of what happens. I think the urbanization is important. But I think you know, it's good that you have a new governor, not a new governor, a new mayor, and you have that. But people still have this perception, and in order for people to move into Arthur's building, or for you to rent the second tower that you're building, or you to build an office building over there, you have to have some of the 24/7 amenities.
But here's how that happens. You have 17,000, 18,000 people a night going to the arena. You have 3,000 people going to NJPAC. When you're there, you see what is happening with those people. And they are going to, right now, the few bars and restaurants that are open. But they're all leaving saying that this is not bad at all. And they're demanding more because they want that environment when they go to a game, when they go to NJPAC. And what happens is from the ground up. It's not going to happen from anybody on a TV show talking about perception. What happens is every person who goes there and goes to a restaurant and has a good experience and goes back and tells their friend, you should go to a Devils game, you should go to a Seton Hall basketball game, you should go to a concert, and there's this place, Scully's, there's another restaurant, there's this, there's that, there's the Ironbound, there are all these different places. And it was a great experience. And that's what starts to change it. Because it's going to happen from the ground up. The people that are living in our building are telling friends that they love this building and they love living in Newark.
Didn't you say prior to the show that most of the people don't work in Newark? They work in New York City?
Correct.
Because they were saving money to go there? I mean, so it's this perception.
Yeah, I mean, the reality, unfortunately, right now is if you're making somewhere between 70 and 100,000 and you want to live by yourself, it's very difficult to do that in Manhattan.
I think the issues are much broader than just what we're talking here on the residential. Residential is clearly critical long-term to Newark. There is a disconnect between the cost and the rental rates. But you know, the bottom line here, Mike, is that in Class A space and corporate office space in Newark, it's a very tight market. It supports reasonable rents that don't yet get to bridge that gap between what it costs to build new, but how many submarkets in New Jersey do. And the bottom line here is the Gateway is almost full. Arthur's done very well. We're very happy with the investment we've made. We have a strong, we have 100,000 square feet available. We let a tenant go to another building in the city rather than drop even further than we thought we had to, and to match rents. And so from a corporate office perspective, a lot of what we're talking about having to come is in a quiet way already there.
But what you are saying is there haven't been, when was the last new office building built in Newark?
The last brand new office building may well be the Legal Center.
Well, I would guess MBNA's.
How many years
But that was
ago?
a build-to-suit as a corporate.
MBNA was five years ago.
And that is
a low-rise
right,
building.
okay.
But
the legal center is how many years?
So it goes back into the 80s.
So it's 20 years. It's 25 years since the last new building, new office building has been built.
But you have to, I mean, that's a little bit misleading because you've had buildings like 744, 570 Broad, 550 Broad that were completely vacant.
Right.
that have...
And gateway buildings that are re-tenanted.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about absorption of about 2 million square feet.
There's two very important ingredients that you have now that didn't exist previously. First of all, we have a new city government, as Ron said, which has been a very important change. We had decades.
Probably the most important.
We had decades of bad government. But the most important, and we also suffered from people who came to Newark and bought properties and discovered something, had a chance to sell them at a profit, and they went back to New York. And what you have here on in your little program here is you've got 4 guys. We may be smart. I think we're right. Whether we're smart or not, I think we're right. You have 4 guys who have made permanent investments in Newark.
And that's the reason I brought them.
I particularly admire Arthur, because prior to Arthur, I had met 5 New York guys who came here, including some great big real estate names like Harry Helmsley, who came to Newark and milked properties, and lots of others. I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody, but Arthur is the only New Yorker who ever came to Newark who made himself part of the community. And being that I've been part of the community my whole life, I really admire that. Joe did the same thing, and Ron is doing exactly the same thing.
In order to, it's difficult in 30 minutes to discuss Newark, but since I have 52 weeks of programs, I'm going to come back to Newark in weeks ahead, and I'm really happy that Joe Taylor, Arthur Stern, Ron Bett, and Jerry Gottesman were here. Next week, I'm going to have 2 investors and 2 lenders talk about the crazy credit market and the credit turmoil. See you next week. Thank you.
Major funding for these programs is provided by grants from HSH Nordbank and First American Title Insurance Company of New York, Perfect Building Maintenance, Allied Partners, Bank of America, Murray Hill Properties, SJP Properties, Greenberg Traurig LLP. Additional funding is provided by grants from Antares Investment Partners, Arbor Realty Trust, Athena Group, BRT Realty Trust, BERDON LLP, C.B. Richard Ellis, City Habitats, City Investment Fund, CUSHMAN and Wakefield, Eastern Consolidated, Essex Capital Partners, Helmsley Spear, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Jackson Development Group, Meridian Capital Group, McSam Hotel Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Moynihan Organization, Muss Development, PALIN Enterprises, Rosenthal and Rosenthal, Signature Bank, Sidney Fettner Associates, Stonehenge Partners, Studley, Sutphin Properties, the WITKOFF Organization, Extreme Construction and Deconstruction.